Our confirmation that we're good to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 15 of Old in the Way. We are officially live. That's the song we got this week. Last week you missed. Actually, our listeners and viewers did get all the audio last week. It was just our cast and crew that didn't hear anything. We got to write lyrics this week. On old, it's old in the way. Talking about motorcycles and having some chips. Ba, 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 ba. It's Sunday afternoon. Ba, ba, ba. Excellent. See, much better. I meant to tell you guys that when I went back and looked at the show last week. Our viewers and listeners did get all the audio last week. It was just you. So,
all right.
My bad for that. All right. So, wow, we got a ton to talk about today. Welcome to episode 15. The subject for today's show is bike tech. Last week was bike rallies, and a couple follow-up notes on that, of course. But this week is bike tech, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we mean about that in a moment. I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished. Is that your walkie-talkie? I'm joined
and over in there, and that sounds bad. A lot of stretching and reaching. It was tough. It was probably easier to detail a motorcycle than it is a car.
And I'd like to add an incident, if I may. About, since we're on the theme of technology and communications. I'd like to share how it's important to secure your equipment properly, tightly to your motorcycle. And what happens is, if when you're riding, put the so she proceeds to yell over the intercom, "What?" Expecting, as I eventually proceed to downshift from 55 down to 50, 40, 30 in about a mile or so, pull over to the side of the Northern State Parkway and proceed to consider saying, "My phone is gone."
Oh,
now,
shit.
There's a happy ending to this, as we both walked about roughly a mile up the road, and there was the phone in the grass, unscathed, with a marginal scratch on the front. So it goes to prove several things. One, I thought I had tightened up the device, which I probably didn't, but that's okay. Number two, it's important to have a very good protective outer box or something to
like a
protect
shell for your phone.
Yeah.
I got to say though, you're throwing yourself on the sword here awfully quick. I would have. You're calling this operator failure too soon.
And 40 some odd years of riding there, I never lost an appliance, an electrical device like that. And three, there it was. It still worked. Now,
that must have been incredible when you came across that thing and it was in the grass and. You were like, oh my gosh, I just made $500 because I didn't have to spend it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but, so now, had I been riding solo, I would not have been in the extreme right-hand lane. I would have been probably in the middle or in the hammer lane, going very fast. And if that same incident had fallen off of me, it would have been crushed.
Yeah, your phone would have been one of those we drive by and go, so that's what the inside of an iPhone looks like.
so kids, if you're listening with your cell phone and using that as an electronic device, make sure that the appliance or holder is securely attached and you have safeguards to ensure that it will stay with you for your ride.
And it's ironic, Carlos. I saw on Eddie's Instagram yesterday. I think her phone took a dive as well.
Yeah, it absolutely did, and that's I hope
probably why she's not here right now.
Yeah, it's actually I didn't think about that. In hindsight, that's true. She might be. We might.
Well, she didn't answer her email, or she's not here, both for the same reason. Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie might be down technology, so we'll have to.
So I figured I'd throw myself on the sword to say that never happened. And
Carlos, how do you secure it to the motorcycle? What kind of mount is it?
There's a plethora of mounts that come in all sorts of
Scotch tape and yarn.
Wait, before you go on car, and you probably how many do you own right now? How many do you own? And how many do you use on the regular?
Me?
Yes, you, Carlos.
Yes, I only have one on. I've come to this one specific holder.
That's what I was
that
getting
is
to.
on
Okay.
on the handlebar. I've tried multiple types of either spring, rubber band configurations.
The kind of claws from the side.
Claws on there, and this one, which I think was human error, not mechanical error, was a type of vice type of setup where the phone. See, the challenge is if your phone comes in an unprotected case, then you're okay because there's multiples that just you snap in.
Right.
In fact, I should have taken a picture, submitted it for the show. A young lady I know that's famous has this brand new BMW racing motorcycle, unbelievable, beautiful, and she loves to go at cosmic speeds. And I happened to notice, I said, oh, look at that phone holder. And it was a collapsible phone holder in which that you take the original cell phone, you push it in, and it presses a button which the 4 clamps so it cannot escape. I have a case on mine which prevented, it has a little hole Apple logo can show through, and that prohibits the locking device.
Gotcha.
So I needed a vice which was working for a year and change before I think it was my fault. The missus wanted to hurry up. I said, yeah, I got it. I didn't give it that extra twist. But otherwise, there's multiples like that are pretty neat, and they run in gamut. Like that's the average price of that type of holder vice. It's about $35, $38. Then you can go up to, and this is also, it charges the phone while you're riding.
And that's built into the. Sorry to interrupt you, Carlos. That's built into
the
fine. Charger. Excuse me, built the Freudian slip there or something. That's built into the holder.
Yes, there's the cable that can either go directly to the battery, or if you have the luxury of having a cigarette lighter adapter, which I do, in the windshield and the fairing, right. I just cigarette lighter, piece of cake, a cable to the item, and every time it sits in the holder, it's charging. So it is very convenient from that end.
Yeah, I just saw a comment in the chat room from USA and Harley. It says there are 2 kinds of riders out there: the ones who drop the phone and camera, and the ones who will eventually. Yeah, and I had a I used we're going to talk about cameras. I use an Insta360 camera, and it mounts. There's a couple different mounts that I have. One that's also commonly used for phones. I'll come back to that in a second, but the Insta360 sits on top of it, and it chows battery, so this thing just is a complete hog, and I didn't feel like charging it or something one time, so I took it off. I had it in my bags. I'm flying down the road a little bit later on my ride. I look up at the mount, and there's the mount with no camera on it at one point. I'd forgotten that I put it in my bag, and when I talk about like I almost had a heart attack on the road, that one got me, and I'm like, oh my god, it's in the back, thank goodness. But there's
that's pretty funny.
That's
kind of like when you pat your pockets and don't feel your phone.
Yeah.
And it's in your hand.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, where's my phone? Oh,
you're like this. Right. Oh my god, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and for exactly. You pat your pockets, and as a newer rider, this is something you veterans might appreciate. But there's nothing. I shouldn't say there's nothing worse, but it's a terrible feeling when you're going down the road and you feel something hit like your upper leg or like your middle torso area, like not at a lot of speed, like just enough, like that just flew off of my bike and not a car. So like, oh shit, what was that?
Okay. I will admit now that you brought these old brain cells to USA on Harley's comment. It just suddenly occurred to me, I did lose a phone earlier in my career, but by the grace of luck, it landed in my crotch.
Really?
And now you have to actually ride,
which was good for 2 reasons.
Well, it landed in my crotch area. Now you try to steer a motorcycle, a 2-wheel motorcycle, with this device gently lying on your crotch. and you don't lose control. So there comes a certain amount of dexterity to balancing and saving that phone.
Technology itself, but there's also how do you get it on your bike? How do you use it? How do you get it off your bike and turn it into something? There's a number of pockets of this, and one of them is the mount, right? How do you get it on your bike? And I put it in the show notes, so you guys can check it out, and I'll post it on social media later. I think mine cost $16 or $17. My phone holder, and it's like itself, sort of like you described, Carlos. Itself, it's a case, right? And it slides open like that. You put your open phone in it, like that, and it closes. And it's got like one of those little snap things behind it that levers it tight. I'll check it out. It's been a great holder, and I've had no issues. And it doesn't involve like in here. Let me ask a question, or I'll make a comment and see you guys react. But and choosing to buy a phone holder, and excuse my language, kids, holy fucking shit. There are so many brands, there are so many combinations, and all of them, most of them involve like true to form with motorcycle shit. There's like 95 parts for everything involved. Like, well, there's the bar mount, and then the mount that mounts to the bar mount, and then the phone mount that mounts to the bar mount that mounts to the bar. Like all you have to get all of this shit, and before you know it, you're in $1,000 for a phone mount, and it just seems like too much.
No,
I would imagine the flexibility is part of the problem there, Jay, because you've got to be able to go around various sizes of handlebars and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're trying to make a universal type thing, and it's probably very tough. I'm imagining that a magnet doesn't cut it like it does in a car, right?
Well, a lot of them involve these elaborate sort of circular mounting systems, and like true to form, like anything, they're all proprietary too. So there's various makers who are trying to get you to use their systems to mount your phone and your camera. And, again, where this is what we wanted to talk about. Like there's I hesitate to call it cottage industry, but there's so much to choose from. Carlos, you were going to say something?
Well, you're talking about a guy who, marvels. First, I give kudos to you and to USA on Harley for doing just exceptional. I really live vicariously through your videos, and I feel it because I have ridden those roads, and I feel it. And you're talking about a guy who I was the photographer for the chapter for a long time, and back in the day, I sound like it. My technology was a little Canon camera with a lanyard around my neck. So I would be riding with a lanyard, and I would be the tail gunner, so I could take that wonderful picture. But it would be like this. And kids, don't do this on the road. With right hand on the throttle, left hand holding the camera, pressing the button, and hoping that it would come out decent.
Yeah.
And then, we're going into a turn. You drop the camera, hoping the lanyard still holds it, and go into the turn. And then when I got home, I saw, I took a picture of the gas tank. Okay, I took a picture of the street light. Okay, that was good. I got a foot over there, and out of maybe 100 pictures, I saved 25. That's my beginning.
Yeah.
But it was really, I think in choosing it was how quickly did I want to take the cell phone off? Was it what kind of riding, do I like? There were many guys who use the X, the RAM mount.
Yep.
And some people swear by it. Some people swear by it. Some people like the Vice method. That is, you basically slide it. It's like a little shelf.
Yeah, that's what I have now. Clamps together. Yep.
Do you screw it tight like a Vice?
It's got a clamp in the back. Yeah, it's got a clamp in the back. Yeah.
Then there's some guys who just use, the bingo bongo, put the phone in there, and they put the rubber bands over it because they don't need to look at the screen to see whether or not the GPS. So it's, it's gotten better.
It has. And I think, so for our listeners and our viewers, and by the way, side note, we are now available in all shows now available in podcast form on YouTube Music, and we're going to try to extend that to everywhere you get your podcasts as soon as possible. So that's in the works. But for our viewers and listeners, everybody's gonna bring their phone with them. I'm not gonna even enter into a conversation about, well, like I leave my phone when I go out, so you're gonna assume you're a rider, you've got your phone. I think the keep it simple method for mounts it has been good for me thus far, and you don't need to spend a ton of money. And Scott, you're right. You do need to work around objects on your handlebars, and they get crowded with lots of gear, especially if you've got your shit Pee Wee Herman'd out like I do. But so in the end, I think it's really what you're looking for is going to be, you get I think everybody has their preference, and there doesn't seem to be like I'm surprised at this, that there doesn't seem to be like a market leader. There doesn't seem to be like one or two mounts that everybody has and everybody uses. It's really a sea of choices. And Carlos,
the challenge you have, the challenge is battery, just like Jay said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here's his, so if your phone, whatever it is, and you're riding, the ride could be a nice long ride, and you're playing music, you have your GPS on, and maybe the phone, So thinking of and use, you can get away with the bigger bikes because they have the availability to tap in, put a USB port, put a battery. But somebody like Jay with a Sportster is not normally conducive. And I've seen guys put a cigarette lighter, that's for cigarette smoking, or because they need to have that charger. And how do you charge that phone while you're riding, especially if you're riding a long day?
Yeah, so far I wrote down space and power. So, when you're thinking about electronics, we're talking about these are two issues we're going to deal with frequently, which is where can I put this thing on my bike? Whether it's a camera or cell phone or GPS, whatever you're dealing with. And then once you're using it, you've created another problem, which is you have to be able to power this device for the duration of your journey or whatever. And wrap all of this too, especially Scott, I don't mean to pick on you, but for newer riders and the uninitiated, you got to pack all of this, and that everything has to be wire tight and safe. Like nothing can fall between the seat on a motorcycle, right? You can't, and if something's loose or whatever, like you have to be able to get stuff in and secure, a la, where we started the discussion, right?
Carlos, I just Googled it, Jay. You weren't kidding. There are a lot of choices here.
There are, and they're super expensive.
Well, the one thing I'll say, though, is I would be a little bit wary of the Vice kind that only has 2 points of contact.
Yeah.
Because that can put a lot of pressure on the housing of the body of the phone and could cause damage if you really wanted to ratchet that thing down. I would like one contact, so it's...
But take that, Scott. Take that and that same concept of loading it and a little shelf.
Yep.
So when you slide it down, it doesn't matter. It will not
exactly.
go any further.
Yeah. Unless your bike is upside down, gravity is going to hold it in place. I like that.
So I'm going to have to change here.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's what the allure of if you're looking at these, Scott, these multi-component systems where it's like a bar mount, and then it's like a disc magnet, attacher mount kind of thing, or some kind of like, may not be magnetic. It could be. And then it's like you're basically...
Well, I'm seeing with some of these really expensive ones here have wireless charging built into them and stuff.
You basically have to, I think if I understand it correctly, and I'm going somewhere with this, you have to kind of accept that like you're not going to have, and I'm looking for my cell phone, it's over here, you're not going to be able to have like your whatever and also be able to use this thing, as Carlos was talking about this before, because in order to secure your phone in this thing, like the case, it's not going to take the case, or
I'm seeing ones, Jay, that you would go around your case and would just kind of clamp on the corners.
Yeah.
Because if it's inconvenient I don't buy anything that's inconvenient to use because I'll never use it. This is a little bit different because the alternative is your phone flying off on the highway.
Right, and that's where I was going is, you were talking about what made me think of it is you mentioned the amount of pressure that the different cases can put on the housing of your electronic, and whether you're talking about a phone or anything that you would mount, I've had this happen with other electronics too, where the mount ends up screwing up the device. But that's the same exact issue that you're going to have with with any kind of a cell phone too, is that if you're clamping it down like mine, you're taking it in and out, like, so it's that clamp thing where you put it in this C vise and then you clamp the thing behind it. every time I stop and want to take my phone off the bike, I have to go through that whole routine, and it puts serious wear and tear on your phone and the case of the phone.
Yeah.
It's also
ideally you'd have something where the top flips open, you just drop your phone in and you close the top, and there's something that secures it.
Yeah.
Scott, if you look at a company by the name of Ciro, CIRO, and Ciro makes a vise clamp, a little shelf, so you can drop it. Yeah. So like you're in a hurry, you drop it, and you already had it preset, regular vanilla holder, or you can then have wireless charging to it.
I'm looking at it here, and it's exactly like you're talking about. And I think the benefit here is you do have side clamps, but it's resting on a little shelf on the bottom.
Shelf.
Yeah. So
you
don't have to clamp the sides down so high that you're going to risk doing damage to your phone. It's just there to keep it from moving laterally. And I'm also looking at the picture here. There is a case on this phone, and it's in here. So this Ciro, CIRO, this checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
But what they don't tell you is, now, to add to that point, and like I said, in retrospect, I went back to the handlebar mount versus altering the handlebars or the mirrors, which would affect your safety.
Yeah, and keep in mind too that like what you just said gives me the willies when I start to think about messing with something on my bike, that like a mirror, and that mirror may not seem like a huge deal, but if you have to alter the structure of your bike, like basically where I'm going, it's like, all right, I had to take off my brakes in order to put this banana shooter on, like that's
had to get the angle grinder out. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. It might be.
Jay, let me ask you a more basic question though, and I was thinking about this because I was mowing the lawn yesterday. I put my AirPod in my pocket, and then I lost it.
Oh, this is perfect.
Lost it.
Oh, this is perfect.
somewhere in the lawn. And I was thinking, hey, dumbass, you should really be wearing some shorts with a zipper on the pocket, because I spent about probably 10 minutes walking the path in the grass that I mowed until I found it.
Yeah.
This is a more serious thing on a motorcycle, and it seems obvious to me as a non-rider that you'd probably want to, like if you had a jacket or something, you probably want the pockets to zip shut so that you're not worrying about just the wrong movement and something comes out.
Yeah, and I think, Carlos, you would know much better than I would, but most motorcycle clothing, things zip and close shut like that for that purpose. And I definitely think
that have zippers will travel. I mean, it's the fun part, because then comes as to what you guys were describing. Oh, no, I lost my phone. But wait a minute, you have 25 pockets in your vest.
Yeah.
And
how is that possible?
It's probably in there. I mean,
well, you mentioned
Scott,
you mentioned AirPods.
Hey Siri, find my phone, and you're, it's on me somewhere here. It'll ring.
Yeah, that's what. It's funny because sometimes when I'm riding, I'm like, oh shit, is my phone, like, do I have everything? And I'll think like, well, if the music stopped, that I would know I lost it. And on that note, how do you listen to your audio? How do you use your phone? And Carlos, I'm cheating a little bit here because you and I talked about this off air this week, but what is your, you've got a phone on your bike, you've got it mounted, hopefully it's not flying off. What are you using for? Are you just you putting it on speaker? You got a set of earbuds tethered down to it? How are you doing that?
Yeah, no, definitely. It depends upon the bike. I've never and would not ever recommend anybody having any sort of earbuds or wire connected to the device. So I've been lucky and fortunate that all of my motorcycles enable me to have sound. And what I mean by that is whether it was always had Bluetooth capability.
Yeah. So if there's ever a use for Bluetooth, this would be it, right?
Yeah.
I think I cut my teeth. I mean, from going from CB radio back in the day, when and a headset with my wife, riding all over the place, to going to Bluetooth, and so I've been fortunate enough that fairings, which is again for me, I've always enjoyed a fairing, a protection, and in the fairing always have to have one of the radios waterproof. I mean, this thing could go in a monsoon and it would never get wet. So it was always Bluetooth was the key to that. And they make it so well that supposing you don't want to have the big bat shield, as they call it, but you want to have you still want to listen to your music. You want some speakers. You don't want to go too crazy and ruin the pizzazz of your bike. And they have little barrel drum speakers that just sit very nicely on your handlebar, again, on the handlebars, or some sort of a little configuration like that Bluetooth. So that's, where there. Now I get it. You can get it to Bluetooth coming in through your speakers. I have now 4G Gundo speakers, and I forget that I'm connected to it, and my wife is calling me, telling me to pick up groceries, and everybody's listening to it,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, Jay, I didn't tell you, about 8 years ago, I interviewed with a startup out in San Francisco.
Oh, really?
And they did, I don't remember the name of it, but it was a heads-up display built into a helmet. And it had a camera on the back of the helmet, so you always had rear view. Remember when Google Glass was big? This was right around that time. And I tried on the helmet. It had speakers in the helmet, so they weren't in your ears.
Yeah.
And in the visor, there was a heads-up display there, and it was pretty cool. They eventually I did see they ran out of money and went belly up. So I guess it wasn't that good an idea, or it was too expensive, but it was like some Mission Impossible kind of stuff at the time.
Yeah, heads-up display sounds cool.
You could display your GPS directions, like like you would imagine. You're looking, and it's has arrows of which direction to go. It was cool.
Yeah. And Carlos, unlike Carlos said, it was my Sportster does not have a fairing on it, or at least not the kind that you would put audio equipment into or any of that. So from right out of the gate, I had to look for an in-helmet solution. And I could have, mounted speakers to the bars, but I have limited bar space as it is. And I really didn't want to have, maybe my mind will change on this someday, but I'm not crazy about just having like the open air blasting of the sound. So
the crowd pisser offer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even that too, like sometimes I just like the solitude, and everything. Yeah. So at any rate, I, the most common, and for our listeners and viewers that are riders, of course, you guys know this, but the solution is, in helmet audio. So what you were talking about, Scott, Sans, the heads up display is very commonly available. There are a ton of different manufacturers. Sena, S as in Sam, SENA. I have two Sena units, two of the same on different helmets that I have. I'm
guessing this is an aftermarket thing. It's not a replacement helmet that you buy. It's something that goes in the helmet of your choice.
Something that goes in it, actually. Yeah, and it's
okay.
Of course I didn't have one of my helmets here in arm's reach, but it's it's an earpiece controller, on one side, and usually a battery, which you can mount the battery pack in the back, very small. And then and this is the part that's really interesting, is the in-helmet audio, as opposed to an earbud or that goes in your ear, or a headphone, for example, that goes over your ear. The in-helmet audio is just sort of like omnipresent, and it sits like, and most helmets nowadays actually, Scott, have pockets built into them. So the technology has come so far that you buy a helmet, one of the selling points will be that it's got Bluetooth speaker inserts, and they're just like 50-cent piece size speakers that sit and hang in the pockets.
But it sounds like the downside to wearing an earbud. I know in Colorado, it's illegal to wear an earbud while you drive because, for obvious reasons, you can't hear the road around you. And I would think that's pretty important on a motorcycle.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, and that's why.
So as much as you could just pop in an AirPod. Maybe it's not the best idea.
Right. I mean, I'm sure people do it.
Sure.
And I did. I asked, not knowing. This is kind of this is an interesting part of this topic. I wasn't sure what the right disposition is, and when I started, I'm thinking, well, I've got like a $150 pair of AirPods or whatever that are really great audio. Why wouldn't I use these? And I asked, and you tend to get, we're not going to go down this path just right now, but there's one school of thought, which is, why are you listening to anything, right? There's you should have, quiet. And in a world of...
This is like when I worked for Volkswagen, and they were mad at Americans because we wanted more cup holders.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea to a German of driving, with, distract yourself with food and beverages. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, it's antithetical to what, exactly. Yeah. So, Yeah, definitely. That I think that's definitely, I think part of the problem is that you have that to contend with. But what I didn't realize, so you get some schooled on that, but what you get schooled on is the technology in that. I don't know how, I can't do this justice to explain this, but from an audio standpoint, in your ear, like, blocks everything else that you hear.
Mm-hmm.
So in the helmet, but not in your ear, it's like you can hear both. So you can hear whatever you're listening to, but you can also hear everything around you unimpeded or muffled, if you will.
I mean, this could be the difference between life or death, right? And I'm putting a very fine point on it and being a little bit dramatic, but I mean, in a world where seconds count, or inches could be the difference between life or death, I would want to hear that thing that gets me to look. And save my life.
Yeah, they're actually making. I'm sorry, Carlos. I'll let you go one second.
Go ahead. Finish it on. I want to add to your helmet statement to add to Scott's
I'll have to look
comment.
at this. I'll make a note to look at this, figure out what this science is behind this. But the first time I rode with a headset unit, I was and listened to music, and I was worried about being distracted. I was blown away about how not distracted I was, and first of all, like, even with as a side note, like, you could buy better and different kinds of speakers, but even with mine pegged, I've got a 2-to-1 Thunderheader exhaust on my bike. Even with the music pegged, if I'm doing 75, 80 down the highway and the wind's going, like, I'm only hearing the bike and the wind. So, I get a little bit of music, but mostly, at any rate, so it's definitely keep. You're going to have different types of models that you can use, but they're starting to make earbuds so these are not for the purpose of, like, motorcycling. They're AirPods, like earpods, where they basically mimic the same effect that I'm talking about, where you can hear whatever it is you want to listen to, but you can also hear everything, all the ambient sound around you. Sony makes a pair of them. They're about $150, $160, and it's basically like a thing on your ear, and the speaker piece, like, sits away from your ear hole. So, all right, now that you know about
the AirPods that I have, the Max one, the Pros, you can blend back in outside sound, and that makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I had a pair of Samsungs very minimum, like that.
Right?
But you know what? I had a pair of Samsung, and again, the Samsung Buds, they're the counter, if you will, they're the high end, for like an Apple AirPod. This is Samsung's answer, and they're probably $150. I dropped one on a flight a couple weeks ago, and that was the end of it, because once something hits the floor on a plane, you're never getting it back again. So, but go ahead, Carlos.
So Scott, to go back to everything that Jay was saying about, first understand, as Harley people or any people riding motorcycles is a choice. Mm-hmm. It's a choice of what people start saying, what they feel is right. It's a very, very, like, two topics that I always say that you easily to have on a discussion panel: windshield, no windshield.
Okay.
And there's those arguments there that say, no, you're real tough, you can do this, and then there's the side, no, I don't like all the 3,000 bugs hitting my face.
Exactly.
The second part of that is music, no music.
Yeah.
And like this. Now, for your edification, then comes now the helmet. You start off with the full face helmet. So now you have the whole head encased, and then full face manufacturers design these cutouts so that you can put your audio system, or you wish to do that, and it's empty. Second helmet is a 3/4 helmet. So, right, you don't like that full effect covering your face.
Jay? Yeah, I actually have a modular helmet, and I asked my assistant here to show it over. Continue, Carlos. Go ahead.
So you got the full face, the Darth Vader look. You got the 3/4, football Jack Nicholson, as you see him wearing in the bike ride. Oh, he's wearing a football helmet. And the third helmet, we're going to have Darth Vader come on any minute now. Yeah, you see? Yeah, teeth are optional on that, Scott.
Yep. Kind of a Punisher look there. Okay.
So that's the full face, the 3/4, and then there's what they call the last of them, the shorty. The shorty is more like the police helmets that come just about short, and they have like ear leather straps that come there. So you basically, everything is air free. What they did, they made also, I have I have the latter two, 3/4 and thing. And what I said, you know what, I want to still have the wind. I still want to have the freedom around my ears, but I want to, and what they sold was an insert that fits in to hold the leather pocket that goes around your thing. And so in the microphone here, in case I get a phone call, if I'm inclined to, but mostly to listen to the GPS and to the music that goes in there. Yeah. So then you decide whether or not, well, what's your comfort level? Safety. If safety is paramount, then you don't care, because in Connecticut, you don't have to wear a helmet. In Florida, you don't have to wear a helmet. So there's those states that don't care, right? But you still want to wear it. Heat, also. Okay. Do you there's Jay driving around in the hot area. You know, will he consider wearing full face, or does he want to? In his helmet, he's got the best of all three worlds in one helmet. He can then take it apart, and like that. And that's something that the listeners should, say, wow, I don't have to buy 3 helmets or 4 helmets or etc. I can just say, but then again, you don't want to take them apart. So do you say, like that?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And I did grab, as I said, so Scott, and for our viewers here, you can see so like on my helmet here, I got used with the camera. That's on the side of the helmet is the control unit. On the back of the helmet is the battery. Right. And then inside the helmet, and I can't really show you the battery or the speakers, but they hang inside these ear pockets. And what's neat about this helmet is the visor piece, and doing Scorpion EXO, I should plug this for them. This is what's called modular. So as Carlos went through all those helmet types, like I have another one that's a one-piece full face helmet, looks like a Lego man's hat. Yeah. This one is modular, meaning I can take it apart and start to pop it off. So, and very quickly, like the front comes off. I won't do the whole thing, but if you see here, gotcha. See these where this line is there? Yep. That piece comes off too. So this an additional part where this side piece comes off, where it strips down to just basically the top bucket. And Carlos, when you do that, you lose the ear pockets that are here, because that's where. So these pieces come off too, and the helmet.
Your ears would be out exposed to the world, right?
Correct, but the helmet comes with a set of straps that replace these ones that are in here that are a little bit more beefy to cover your ear, and they also have a pocket built into them. So when you take this piece off, you can still use your audio, so that you can put the head speakers back in. So that's like you can see, I have the controller all the way up here, because the helmet breaks down all the way up to that spot. The drawback to this style helmet, and this is more aesthetic than anything, is and this is where we'll have a helmet episode for sure. We can move on after this, but
we're kind of having one right now.
Yeah, the drawback to this is what everybody says, which is you get the mushroom or the penis head, because this helmet actually has padding in it. Whereas if you just bought a half helmet, like the top, if you were just going out to buy like the minimum helmet you needed, it wouldn't look like this. It wouldn't have this much padding in it. The minimum DOT helmet would be like a brain bucket that just basically is like a piece of plastic that covers your
it looks
skull.
Like an old German army helmet.
Yeah, something like that, along those lines. So this one's a little beefier. For me, fortunately, because I have long hair, I can kind of get away with it. I don't look like an orange on a toothpick. But so at any rate, let's...
one thing I'll point out real quick, Jay, is I have a Bluetooth ear headset that is bone conduction.
Oh,
so
neat.
Instead of going in your ear canal, it sits in front of your tragus, which is the flappy part.
That's what it is. That's what the Sony thing is. I think it's bone.
And it sits right here. I bought it because mowing the lawn with my AirPods Max in July, it's so sweaty, so gross. Now you have to put in foam earplugs into your ear canal. Otherwise, the sound of the mower is so loud you can't hear. But I'll tell you, with my snowblower, with my lawnmower, with foam earplugs in and the bone conduction, I can hear everything just fine. But I don't think that would work on a motorcycle, because that ambient sound is going to be so loud, you're not going to hear your audio.
Yeah, you definitely, and I want to. We're gonna.
Carlos, you look pained. What's going on there?
No. I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking. I guess I'm so used to. I have 6 speakers on. I have 4 speakers in front of me hitting me, no matter how fast I go.
Yeah.
I can listen to Led Zeppelin on full crank, and I'm letting everybody know I like Led Zeppelin.
That's right. That's right.
And there's two speakers behind me hitting me in the back. And no matter what speed I go to, it just happens to be how well the cone of silence or how well the protection is that you can actually hear the sound.
Yeah.
And I'm still able to hear around
the speed of sound, because then you're not going to hear the speakers behind you.
Yeah,
so if you're at like 771 miles an hour, you're toast.
Yeah, which is possible, of course. And I think that we're going to run out of time to talk about cameras, and we'll have to pick that up in a future episode. But there's cameras are, just with like phones, the mounting.
Well, what would you tell me as a guy?
Yeah.
What would be the first camera, just throw say, hey, you started off with camera A, was about X amount of dollars, and where did you mount it? Or did you mount it? Or did you use a selfie stick?
Yeah. There's
actually break that out even further, Jay.
Yeah.
First, why would I want a camera? What is the point of the camera? Then get into what Carlos was asking.
Yeah, so and I think in any of these, when you talk about these technology types of technology, whether it's a phone or a camera, and we talked about this before, Scott, to your point, you're going to have the soul surfer sort of discussion of why do you need any of this stuff with you in the first place.
Our forefathers didn't need cameras on their
right, exactly.
Yeah.
For me, I happen to be, before I got into motorcycles, I've been a tech nerd my whole life. So the idea, that's why. And I'm glad you asked. The other reason why is because I ride alone quite a bit, and the people who are closest to me in my life, my wife, my kids, my family, they don't ride, so they don't get to see this stuff. So it gives me an opportunity to share with them, like, this is what I saw, and they can see a little bit of it, and obviously the creative aspect of it too.
Well, sure. When that guy dumped you in the intersection too.
Yeah, that was
video of it. That was great.
Yeah, it is, and it's like there are times when I will say, jumping ahead real quick, there are times when I now will not have it on at all at times, because sometimes I just want to think, and I don't want to, not that it distracts me, but I just want to, sometimes it's almost like I want to have rides that are unrecorded, that are of what it's like to ride. The other type are the 360 cameras, which are much newer to the market, and they're also much more expensive than a GoPro. So, to answer your question, Carlos, if I were going into today, I would say, if you can afford it, buy a 360 camera, because I found 360 cameras by looking for something like, is there a GoPro product that shoots both ways? That's got a camera in front and back that I could put on my handlebar. And that's how I found 360. And the capabilities that 360 gives you are just, they're cavernous. I have an Insta360, 1X2, which is, I think, one model down from whatever their latest is. I paid $360, I think, for it on Amazon, and that was like, I think it retailed at the time for $400, and I found the sale at through Amazon, something like that. So not an inexpensive camera, but if you were trying to create content, I would highly recommend the 360.
So does it truly give you 360 degrees of
yes.
coverage?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Is it only video, and then you just take stills from your video?
It's both. So you can get stills or video from it, obviously. And the way that it works, and this is a little confusing, but what happens the way that it works is you go out and you ride, right? So you put the camera on your bike, you turn it on, and in our next episode, we'll talk about all that you have to do to keep it powered and not overheated. And we'll, like we talked about earlier, keeping your gear running while you're using it on your bike is a whole other episode. But you shoot, you record, and then what happens when you bring it back, then when you go into edit, you edit in 360. So in the software, what you do is if you sit and you look at it, and it gives you actually click on the screen and drag, and if you click and drag, it spins around, and you can see almost like Google Street View, when you spin around.
Yeah, sure.
That's exactly what it's like.
But the output is going to be a slice of that pie, right?
Yeah. When you go and edit to a video, what you do is you basically produce a video by creating like anchor points, and you could just have the whole thing pointed forward, just like a stock camera. Or as you're going, you can have it pan and do all these other things, and that's where the production comes in. You can edit it, and I think, or something like that direction, because they're probably significantly less on your bike, right, Carlos?
I had GoPro, but I wasn't. Maybe it was because various club members had given me their hand-me-down GoPros as a here. We don't want them. Here, test it out, and I gave it a shot. In fact, on the trike there is a mount that's universal for GoPro and Akaso. Another, cool. So it's there. And Scott, to your point, when I there's a 2017 bike. This guy loaded up the bike with a lot of accessories, of which the dealer didn't know about one key accessory. He put a dash cam in the front and a rear dash cam in the back. Okay. So basically, I have I forgot, a 5 gig or a 25 gig hard drive under my seat, perpetually recording everything that's going in the front and everything that's going on the back. And I've played with that, and I thought, then you saw the face going,
wow,
like this to the side, and the camera. So that's the extent of.
It's like a protective measure, having that perpetual video running. Not something you'd create content from necessarily.
Little insurance policy.
Yeah, definitely.
You could just take whatever 2 minute, because you could set it to 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, etc. So if you want to share, if I was inclined to share, oh, look, we went on a ride, we left the parking lot, and we traveled a mile down the road. Here we are, don't we look cool? And there it is from the front perspective.
Yeah. Or if you're riding and you see a UFO or a Bigfoot or something, you're like, hey, wait a minute, I've got this.
Yeah. And the camera mount. So one, before we'll leave this as a cliffhanger for our next episode. The GoPro mounts, as you guys know, and I'll try to do this for everybody watching, they have the little teeth thing that kind of go together like this, and then you got the screw that goes between them. Since I purchased the Insta360, I've been introduced to another type of mount now, which are just a straight screw mount. So it's like your device has like a camera would have, for to go on a tripod. It's got whatever gauge that hole is in, so you could screw it on top of a tripod mount, for example. The Insta360 has got the same effect, where I can screw it on top of a mount, and then it's like two balls that kind of grip together, so you can adjust it. And you know what I'm talking about? I know, the balls. But it's like, I'm not sure what the name of this kind of mount is, but there's like, it's like it mounts to your handlebar, and it's almost, there's tension on like a ball on top and the ball on the bottom, and that gives you like two joints to kind of articulate the mount. And that thing is
called a ball joint.
A ball joint. There you go. Thanks, dude. So it's like two ball joints, and
That's what I'm here for.
Mounted to the handlebar, and then the device is screwed in. So basically, there's no way that this thing is coming off unless somehow the plastic or the mount itself breaks. Yeah. So that's what the Insta cameras use. So it's a little bit more reliable than, I guess, not less so than the GoPro, but more than, you're not clamping it to anything. Or there's some mounts that use like glue or things like that, and I would never in a million years try.
I'm impressed with your videos. When I watch your videos, Jay, the same thing with USA and Harley, is that the Harleys are vibration folks, animals. They are vibration folks, and and there's the commercial where it shows the guy. I think I've seen some things where the guy's trying to talk to somebody in a parked car, and he's going.
There's a great meme that's going around. That's gone around where it's like when you pull up next to a Harley rider at a stoplight, and it's like it flashes to a video of a rather portly kid going like. But I know we're running up on our time.
Well, hold on, but Carlos, I did something similar. I put the GoPro on my snowblower when we had like 28 inches of snow,
as you should,
and it was almost unusable because of the vibration to it. I didn't have a shock mount. That's
what the Insta360 does, and that's another thing. Again, for our next discussion on this, I think where this device has leapt, past GoPro, we'll say for now anyway, and into the next level, is that their technology has a shock resistance. So even on my bike, it's relatively stable.
That's cool.
And so it takes that out. And as you're running around with it too, you get the same effect. So if you're like, if you remember, Scott, I was trying to make a video and I was trying to make a shock mount for like my own GoPro to video walking down to go surfing, and I couldn't get it done. This solves that immediately. So
cool.
So definitely something definitely worth checking out. And we'll talk about the how you get this stuff downloaded and produced, and what the actual some of the what I've learned,
which is like
using it.
90% of the work.
It is. It's very interesting if you're trying to create content. And there's also, it's definitely it leads to some rather interesting moments too when you're on the road. It's a good talking point. Let's put it that way. Cool. So, all right, let's get ahead. We're gonna wrap up. We're at the hour here, 1:00, 1:04 actually p.m. in the Pacific time zone here. Quickly before we go, we'll pick this conversation up on Bike Tech in our next episode. I want to thank USA on Harley again for popping in today earlier as well, but also for coming on last week in short notice, and for all the help there and advice they're sharing offline on Sturgis as we get ready for that ride. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Sturgis trip.
Yeah, I panicked a little bit. I thought it was the 4th of July.
No.
Like, is Jay going to be pulling up at my house like any moment here? And,
yeah.
And it's August 4th.
Yes. Quick update on that. I am the again, I'll get you out of here right away. But the prevailing wisdom from almost everybody I've talked to is try to get out and ride the area around Sturgis before the actual event, because that's
exactly what Carlos said last week.
Yeah. And that's, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to back up my departure a little earlier. So I'm looking at probably, Scott, breezing through the Denver area somewhere probably like the 27th, 28-ish. So I'll let you know.
I'll let the police know. No problem.
Yeah, please do. Please do. And also, we talked. We got into a discussion off air about new rider tips from a channel, and I just found this individual through this discussion. Her name is Her on Two Wheels. Is the channel, huge following, 174,000 YouTube subscribers. So really big time content creator. Great video. I reached out to her. I asked her to come on the show because we had such an interesting discussion. I thought about some of
said, hey, let's watch that video of the fireworks we took.
Yes.
So just enjoy it. Be in the moment.
Well, actually, you know what?
There with your phone.
I'm going to try it with the 360 video, though. I'm going to go down there.
Okay, that's different, though.
I'm going to try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keeping that we have been invited to participate in a 4th of July parade. It's at Sagamore Hill, Oyster Bay, and yes, Teddy Roosevelt is going to be with me and walking or riding. I haven't figured that out yet. If he wants to ride on the bike, I'll throw him on the bike. But yes, Theodore Roosevelt, our president from Sagamore Hill, will be in the parade.
That's his actual name?
Yes. He's an actor, Yeah, he's a reenactor. But yes. Because, see, Oyster Bay out here is the home of the president of Theodore Roosevelt, the Rough Riders, et cetera. And there's these various folks who actually...
Of Oak Island fame. Theodore Roosevelt of Oak Island fame.
Yes, they are... they're the ones who come out there. So I met this guy. This is his second year as Teddy Roosevelt impersonator. So I'm looking forward to saying bully with him and having him ride along or come along.
Probably better to have a Theodore Roosevelt impersonator than a Lincoln impersonator, because he would go way over your head on the bike.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be hard as hell to keep that. You'd have to get a chin strap for that top hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen.
Anyway.
Yeah. On that point, I would agree. Please don't let this be the last night you go to bed with 10 fingers. So everybody be careful out there. Have a great holiday weekend.